Today's program, along with complete show notes of the show and other programs, visit elevatorradioshow.com.
You're tuned in to the Elevator Radio Show, a weekly program dedicated to covering news and information on elevators, escalators, and moving walkways. Produced in the wee hours of the morning, a new show is uploaded every Wednesday, sometimes even before you get out of bed. Listen to some of the comments sent in from our audience.
Rob from New York writes, Tom, are you f***ing insane? You actually get up at 2 a.m. each Wednesday to put this show out? Man, you must love elevators. Tim from Illinois writes, I'm not sure why I listened, but ever since I tuned into the first show back in 2007, I've been addicted. Matt in Texas writes, I like your safety messages, Tom. It's important to remember them each and every day. And he also adds, when am I going to win the monthly prize pack giveaway? Ron from California sent this in. Despite your inability to pronounce words in the English language, I tune in each week and am glad that you offer this service to the industry. It's better than Google News alerts. Sarah from Washington writes, love the show, Tom, and look forward to it each week. I'm glad I signed up for the newsletter. You provide a valuable resource for the industry, not only for North America, but worldwide.
Enjoy the show. And now, here's your sleep-deprived host, Tom Seibert.
Hello, everybody. I'm Tom Seibert, your host for today's program. I'm also the creator. I'm also the producer, all that good stuff. It is good to be here this Wednesday morning where it is freaking freezing outside. It's like 9. It's March, 6th, and it's freezing outside. Let's all really think hard about some warm weather, and hopefully spring will come at some point, and I can end my reign or my idea that second week in June is when we can confirm that it should be warm for the rest of the summer until fall hits. Let's see if I can get that mindset changed. Anyway, it's good to be here this Wednesday. I have a good show for you today. Lots of good content to share. I do have my safety glasses on today. We're promoting safety, and the reason for that is that actually running pieces on our CNC machine came in early, and they take about 30 minutes. So if you hear my timer on my phone behind me, it means that I'm supposed to go change the part, but I won't do that. I'll make sure we get the show done so I can get back out and add what I need to take care of today. It's been busy, just busy. Not a bad thing whatsoever. Starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, although I'm afraid that the light at the end of the tunnel may be an express freight train, which I'm sure many of you know what that feels like. So, but it's all good, and as long as we keep things in perspective, realize that none of us are doing open heart surgery in the work that we do, and that at the end of the day, we got to make sure we get home, safely. That's all that really matters. So anyway, got a good show for you today. We'll have you out of here in no time, as I typically say, and hopefully you enjoy it. And if you find any value in any of the articles or stories that we share on today's program, please share them with your coworkers, your friends, your acquaintances, anybody that you think might benefit from them. And don't cite me. You don't have to say, I heard on the Elevator Radio Show. I don't really care about all that. Don't worry about it. But if it makes a difference in somebody's, safety or their work, and they do, please share it. That's what we're all about here on the program. So news is up next. And as always, feel free to comment on our Facebook page. It's Facebook /Elevator Radio Show, maybe. I don't know, one of those. You can go to elevatorradioshow.com, scroll down to the bottom of the page, and you can see all the different links we have there that you can click over to. Anyway, news is up next.
Let this week's news stories give you a lift on what's happening in the vertical transportation arena. Each news segment is organically dug and fresh with news stories of the week. Got lift? If not, stay tuned.
First news story involves a tragedy up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. A little too close to home, unfortunately, and to the best of my knowledge or ability in understanding the details or the alleged details of what had happened here. The outcome is terrible no matter what. Apparently, medical examiner's report came and gave details regarding a man falling down an elevator shaft in Milwaukee. Apparently, it was the son of an Azarian who has a variety of businesses in. I should say variety of businesses. This business he was working at was a wrecking or demolition type of company. Apparently, Anthony Azarian was identified after he passed away after his forklift. He was operating 7 stories down an elevator shaft. Let's see here, just some of the details. They were Azarian was using a forklift with an attached bucket to remove bricks from the elevator shaft that was walled off. Report says that the bucket for Azarian's forklift was in the high position before the forklift rocked and then fell over the edge of the shaft. It's awful. Forklift dropped about 80 feet before striking the bottom, and crews needed a jaw of life to extricate him from the cage and his forklift, but could not revive him. It's awful, and it's just, the reality is he had just had a baby like 2 days prior. This is awful, and so while it did not involve any of the equipment necessarily that we all, it involved an elevator shaft, obviously, but it just, life is fragile, and we all have to make sure that we're doing our best to ensure that we, get home each and every day. Just terrible, terrible accident, and not something you want to see happen to anybody. And hopefully, as details are released on this, they will share more about steps on what can be taken to prevent something like this from happening in the future. It sounds terrible of what happened, and just not good. Next news article. The Real Deal, New York real estate news. Busted elevator in your townhouse? ? Department of Buildings offers owners amnesty to get devices up to code. This is interesting. 1 month after a woman was trapped in an elevator on the Upper East Side for 3 days, cities is giving owners of private elevators a chance to get their devices up to code without getting in trouble. Department of Buildings announced on Friday that it will give owners a free pass for the next 90 days. They can request an inspection and test for a registered or unregistered elevator and apply for registration. Without fear of receiving penalties, the inspections and tests can be conducted by Department of Buildings free of charge. My question to you is this, or to anybody, is, I think it's great. Do you think they have enough inspectors to go through and look at elevators like that? I wonder whether or not they're going to be able to reach the number of people that either respond or don't respond, and whether or not people are just not going to respond. When I look at this, it's a good proactive effort to get unregistered devices registered. I suspect that probably some of those unregistered devices are probably not safe and would require lots of work, and I can imagine that might be the reason why they might not be called the Department of Buildings. But yeah, no strings attached. Free inspections, no strings attached. Until they come in and they say your elevator's unsafe, you got to rip it out or red tag it. And you know what? Whatever works. I'm good with that. I think it would be nice to see a better proactive approach to educating those people with elevators, whether they're old, whether they're in cities or states. And I think, education through the interweb, the wonderful world of the interweb, and how people obtain information, I think is critical. I can't tell you how many building owners or elevator owners I talk to that are totally in the dark about their units, and they think, or maybe they're not in the dark, maybe they're just sharing. Maybe I'm assuming they just don't know what the hell they're talking about, which usually is the case. But the reality is I always point them back to an elevator contractor. Said, listen, you need to partner with your company that maintains or works on your equipment to come up with a solution that you need. That don't contact me. I can't help you. So, but the information, it just seems like, Department of Buildings anywhere could put out a video that says, hey, this is what your home elevator should have. If it's not registered, if it's not safe, you really need to bring it into compliance at the bare minimum. This is what could happen, et cetera, et cetera. But, maybe at some point that's something that some outside source or firm should be doing, or maybe even us. I don't know. Maybe that's something that the Elevator Radio Show should be talking about. I don't know. Maybe it's a liability issue. Who knows? But anyway, just interesting to see that post for sure. Okay, press release was sent out on MediaPost.com. Newsy and Captivate partner to bring content to elevator screens. I'm not sure. I'm not seeing a elevator screen in a long time. I don't ride that many elevators, if you can believe it. Yeah, you think, oh yeah, we ride them all the time, but I don't ride that many elevators. But when I do, I get excited. But apparently they're focusing on, let's see here. Oh, they're looking to get into a different kind of niche. And the reasoning is because of all of the Washington news that is online. Like, who cares already, right? Just seems like there should be bigger things we should be worrying about than all the crap that goes on in Washington, D.C. Next news article, claims of mold and ceilings in urine and elevator. Oh, it sounds like the perfect combination to me, right? This is at the NLR apartment building. I believe it's in North Little Rock, Arkansas. Yeah, it sounds like it sounds disgusting. The reality too is that urine is not something that's easy to get rid of, and the bacteria that's associated with it either. So it's like one of those things where, man, for transit systems, you got to go in there with like freaking acid wash and just try to kill as much as you can. And that's in a transit setting, not necessarily an apartment building setting. It sounds disgusting. Yeah. Anyway, next article that came up in my news aggregator, digitaljournal.com, has a has a report talking about solar-powered elevator market. Yeah, that is so big, and that's happening. Apparently, global industry analysts at size, share growth, trends, and forecast 2019 to 2027. How many of you out there, since you are in the elevator industry, get that the email, hey, this report is available now for you to purchase for $495 or whatever on the global elevator market, including major producers and installers, blah, 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 blah. I'm sure they do sell that report, but you kind of wonder, just, I don't know, I just wonder a lot of stuff. This one is in particular solar-powered elevator market. Like, it's very interesting. I wonder if that'll ever happen or what that would entail. There was a time, I do remember, and somebody might want to correct me, I think Dover had an elevator that was battery operated, which would tie right into this kind of, solar-powered system. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I don't know how many buildings out there do you think are completely solar powered, off the grid kind of thing, like commercial space? And think there are too many of those out there? I wonder. Next news article, in memoriam. I'm always sad and amazed and humbled when I read articles like this of news of passing veterans, elevator mechanics. Because when they're listed, when their occupation is listed in their obituary or their memoriam as an elevator mechanic, I just think that's awesome. I think that it says a lot about the person and what they did in life, how they contributed, and I just wish we could learn more and listen to the stories that people like Fred Runn had to share. Apparently, he was 98 years old. Sounds like a pretty pleasant person. He was a World War II Air Force veteran tail gunner who flew 72 missions and received the Distinguished Flying Cross. I mean, that's pretty damn impressive. You wonder how many other heroes are out there in the world that have crossed our paths that we have not recognized or ever comprehended just how special in what they did was. So I think it's just cool. Hats off to with greatest honor and admiration for this gentleman. ABC Channel 7 News has an article, Manhattan subway escalator buckles shreds during morning commute. Kind of scary. And I don't want to say scary, but the image that's shown here was taken by somebody who had just gotten off the escalator. As you can see, multiple people are still on the escalator trying to walk up and walk around it, which looks dangerous as heck. And hopefully that was shut down very, very quickly. I don't know what alternative things were there. I'm assuming there must have been stairs in between, but just really scary. And this is the kind of thing. Transit systems are tough on elevators and escalators. It's just the bottom line. One of the toughest that I've ever seen in all the projects that I've worked on. So, and I don't think that's ever going to change until we as human beings are just not as abusive on anything we don't like. Next news article, cool escalators at Macy's in New York. It would have been nice to see a little bit more safety regarding this, but it's okay. It was just talking. This is a blog post by Devin Wright, just talking about how there's cool escalators in New York, or some of which are the original wood escalators, which are classic and really neat to look at. But the reality is make sure that you're riding escalators safely. You're holding on to the handrails. Your feet are away from the sides. You're paying attention. You're not putting trams or strollers or any kind of devices that shouldn't be on there. And you're paying attention. It's something you should be doing in today's world of cell phones and all that jazz to distract you. Next news article, bizjournals.com. Baltimore Convention Center exec decries failing escalators, 23 and a 23-year-old leak. Just basically there's a news article talking about the fact that buildings do need improvement, and Peggy Dukakis, the Convention Center's executive director, told Maryland General Assembly members on Thursday that the 40-year-old convention center is starting to see some critical capital issues as a result of age. You wonder whether or not, in the grand scheme of things, when it relates to, I do not want the newsletter, relates to facilities like this, how much money is allocated for improvements, capital improvements, or replacement. I don't really know. That's a world that I'm not really part of, but there's got to be some type of plan in place beyond the maintenance of a building like this that would fund improvements and make equipment more reliable. So just one of the realities of having centers like this in government buildings. Here's another article that I found involving an interview with a man who is homeless or lives in a Motel 6, and it just goes into some of the serious issues that he went through with his girlfriend or his wife. I don't recall. I'm not going to get into it right now. But he's an elevator mechanic, and just how difficult life can be or hard when you have quite a few different setbacks that you have to work through. So again, I linked it because of the fact he was a former elevator mechanic, but also to share with everybody just how lucky, you think you might have it difficult or hard. And when you compare your life to perhaps this gentleman, Greg Horton, life is probably pretty good. So just a good perspective piece in where he says that, hope is what he has to have to get through. And, give him a lot of credit for everything that he's doing. And hopefully he can kind of rebound and get back on his feet. And, I think when you're talking about hitting rock bottom or thinking you have, it's definitely a life-changing situation where it can be very difficult to get out of. So anyway, just read it and kind of put things in perspective for yourself. Next link, NewYorkTimes.com has an interactive photograph exposition, I guess I should say, photographs by Christopher Payne, still at it. And this is a great article, okay? I have more respect for the guys that I work with who are 50, who are 60, than I shouldn't say that because it's recorded. I have a lot of respect for everybody I work with. But there's something about the working generation from who is 50 or above that just kicks ass. They know how to work. They want more. They want to make a difference. They know the value of doing a good job. And for these people who are featured in here, my hat's off to you. These are great photographs, and my whole thing here is, and the reason why I'm linking this is because elevator mechanic Debbie Vasic, and Debbie, I'm sorry if I did not pronounce your name right, 58 years old, elevator mechanic for Otis Elevator Midtown Manhattan. Great photograph. It's just cool. Awesome photograph. And again, my hat's off to anybody who wants to work until they can work no longer. Had a colleague, Richard Daniel, who had worked here. I think he was 80-something. And I told him, I said, you can work as long as you want to work, Richard. And he did. Unfortunately, he passed away after getting ill, but he worked up until that point. And so to all of you out there who want to work beyond, what the traditional 65 age year is, whatever, hats off to you. I love our older generations that are out there. I really do. It's awesome to work with them. It's awesome to hear their perspective. It's awesome to imagine what their life, what they're working, their whole life of working has been like, and just how that has been, it's just, and what they've seen. I love absorbing that. BizNow.com has a website. We're going to block notifications from them. I just hate all this crap. Flooding is turning elevators into lethal traps with little oversight. So this is an article talking about Hurricane Harvey and the tragedy that occurred when Jill Rennick had traveled in the elevator going down into the where the cars are parked, I believe, and she basically drowned in the elevator. Now, this is not a very common occurrence by any means, but it has happened more than once. Elevator controller companies have circuitry in their elevators to, I don't know if they call it flood protection or whatever, so that if there's water, there's a water sensor, a float switch in the pit. It'll allow the send a signal to the car. The elevator will go straight up to the top floor. It should stop at the top floor, lock itself out. And so, good article. I do think that it is something important to consider. Again, not a lot of this hasn't happened a lot, but the reality is that we have to be prepared for it. We're talking about heavy precipitation and change as it relates to that, but mainly it's the hurricanes and the storm surges that are going to be an issue. And maybe like earthquake protection, we're going to see more of this kind of thing happening. A pit float switch is very inexpensive to install. Circuitry is very inexpensive. There's like nothing. It's just a program change. Obviously, it's wiring running up to the machine room and whatnot. But the reality is that we want to make sure that elevators are definitely. We want to make sure elevators are definitely protected and people are protected in the event of heavy downpour, stuff like that. So very important. Okay, in the last news article of today's program, I'm having trouble here. I think I need more coffee. Star.com has an article regarding 9 injured in accident on escalator at Hong Kong MTR station during morning rush hour. So 9 people were injured on a train station escalator during Thursday morning rush hour, according to Hong Kong's rail operator. So, yeah, it's just scary. Again, as I mentioned before, transit systems are probably one of the most difficult places to ensure equipment runs flawlessly, and it has a lot of use for sure. So anyway, well, that's going to do it for this week. Just a couple of notes. NACE International has a continuing education conference or session this week. I believe it's, I had it in last week's program and I forgot to add it on today's. That's in Chicago, Rosemont, or it's Thursday, maybe Friday and Saturday. Anyway, check it out. Link is in the show notes if you need cute. Let me just stop my timer. Anyway, and also the CEA meeting is tomorrow night. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to make either one of those, but I do encourage you to attend. It's always a great opportunity to see friends and learn and all that great stuff. So get your QEI credits at the same time while it's freezing cold out there. That's all I can say, at least in the Chicagoland or Midwest area. So anyway, that's going to do it for today's show, everybody. I want to thank everybody for joining me today. It has been my pleasure to bring you the program, and think spring out there and be safe. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.